week, another podcast. Hi, Rob.
Hey, how's it going, Kelly?
Not too bad. Are you enjoying this beautiful Indian summer we're having?
Yes, it's middle of November and it was 19 degrees today and
Oh,
sunny.
it was so nice. I actually went out without a jacket on, just like a nice sweater. It's perfect weather.
I know it's very unusual for this time of year.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, before we start, sad news. I don't know if you saw, but Alex Trebek died today.
I did. That was very
I know.
so sad. What a national treasure,
I know. I thought it'd be a good idea to just bring that up before we get going because I learned this seeing on the on Curling Canada's Facebook page today that he actually called curling games once. They had a picture of him with
No
I don't know
way.
who, but it was an old black and white photo, and he was because he worked for the CBC a long time ago, and
Yeah.
he was calling some curling event. It was
Oh, we need to dig that up.
I know, yeah, we'll talk about it more next week, I guess, once we've actually learned more. But
Yeah.
yeah,
I
sad.
wonder if
to hear.
I wonder if they'll do like a trivia. You know how we before COVID when we used to go to bar trivia, like trivia night. I wonder if they'll do a virtual like homage to Trebek.
Oh, and fun fact, one of your old teammates and the sister of one of my old teammates appeared on Jeopardy.
That's true.
That was, yeah, I remember that. And I
It's
remember
funny.
the first question was or first answer, I guess, was what is Quebec? The province. And she only didn't get it because I don't think
Someone
she was
buzzed
quick on the
in
buzzer.
before.
Yeah, it's
Mhm.
that's one of the many reasons I would fail on Jeopardy. I wouldn't know most of the things, and then the buzzer.
Honestly, it sounds so stressful to be on there. Like just you're having your heart racing. Like I know when we do trivia nights and we get we're like tied for first place and we have to do a tiebreaker and then everyone has to go up in the front and it's like a first
Oh, it's
first
stressful.
person tap, like your heart's pounding, you know?
It's stressful. It's hard to watch Jeopardy with somebody, I find, because they're just yelling out but wait, I haven't even finished reading. So,
You need to watch Jeopardy with someone who's less knowledgeable in random facts.
aha, yes,
That's the key. Or you watch. I like to watch the kids or college round because then it's
that's
like
more
I
my
know more of
speed.
the
Yeah,
answers.
I can keep up with those ones. But yeah, that was our sad news. Sad way to start for
That's
this week. I guess the other big news from this week, just following current affairs, it was a very contentious political week this week.
Rob. I was more stressed than I thought I would be. I guess it's just the anticipation of just seeing like what's gonna happen and just seeing those states change from blue to red, from red to
Wait,
blue.
what do you states change? What are you talking about?
Wait, what are you talking about?
I was talking about how countries select their their curling representatives. What the heck are you talking about?
I thought you were talking about the election for a second.
Now that, folks, that is a segue.
Sorry, it's like the only thing that was on my brain this week with everyone message. Anyways, okay. Sorry.
That would be hard to top.
Okay, we're good.
Okay, yeah. So we didn't plan that. That's just that's how good we are.
Your segues have gotten too good, Rob.
Uh-huh. But yes, I guess what we're actually going to get into is the way different countries select their representatives to curl internationally. Very contentious, very controversial in some countries.
There's definitely two schools of thought here. Canada definitely has its way of selecting its candidate, which, and my personal opinion is it's the best method or the fairest method. But other countries have a different selection process for certain reasons. Sometimes like especially with countries that are smaller in population or doesn't have as big of a curling culture as Canada.
I
But
agree
because
with you. Yeah.
because this is such a contentious issue, we're gonna split this podcast into two parts because I feel like we can ramble on
We could
this
go on
topic
for a week. Yeah.
for a long time. So this week we're just gonna focus on Canada and how Canada does things and kind of dig deep into is it really the best selection process we have right now given how the game has changed so much over the years and kind of go
That's
from
right.
there.
Yeah, just right off the top, I agree with you. I like the Canadian system. Look at that. We're no
Mhm.
longer fighting over a swathing versus straight cutting. We're finally in agreement on something.
And I
So,
think this is a Canada versus the world thing because I don't know many other Canadians who who would want to adopt the other selection processes.
Right. And who better to talk about this, by the way, than two people who have no chance of ever coming close to this?
It's true. We gave up our competitive or like our chances to win a title a long time ago. So I guess to explain a little bit more like what we're talking about. So for the world, or what a lot of countries in Europe and some of the other smaller countries around the world, the way they select their national team is they will have like a national squad, or they will hand select a national team and then develop that team and put all the resources in that team so they have the best chance of winning medals or doing well in the worlds. Whereas Canada, we have our process is you win it and you get to go.
That's right. Anybody can, in theory.
Yeah, we have playdowns starting from the regional level up to provincial, and then if you win your province, then you get to go to either the Brier or the Scotties and represent your province or territory. Whoever the winner is gets to represent Canada.
That's the way it should be. No,
pretty simple.
It's a little more complicated than that, but yeah, I'm a traditionalist. I've always liked that system, but it's pretty interesting how just that, even though we've not really changed formats, it's evolved quite a lot over the last few years.
And I think Canada's starting to get at a point where it has to change again because there are some issues. It's like it's not a perfect process either, right?
I don't know.
No? Well, the way Canada does it, I mean, it's part of competition, right? Like you train, you play down, you like do everything you have to do to like get that title, and it's fair game.
And I think, yeah, ultimately the field in Canada is so deep that anybody who makes it far in Canada deserves to be there. You're going to get, I mean, I ran through the list of recent winners and it's like there's 3 skips that keep winning every year. We just go back and forth between them. But yeah, if anybody beats them, they've earned it.
Yeah.
Are they going to do as well at the Worlds? Maybe not. But hey, if you can get through a field like that.
You know, in Canada, we're so lucky that we have so many players and so many good players and so many good teams that could represent Canada and do well at the Worlds that it wouldn't be fair to select one team over another, right?
No.
And also too, it's like how are we going to select a team, right? Like how are you going to pick or justify picking Koe versus Gushue, right?
Of course.
There wouldn't be a fair way, and I think it would get a little too political. So
no, and it's also interesting to think that no other sport would work like that. No other sport would pick a champion or a representative arbitrarily to say that. Well, actually, I shouldn't say that. What do I know? I just know that a lot of other sports have actual playoffs or to determine a champion.
Well, it's part of the game. Like it's part of competition, regardless of the sport, right?
Yeah, you don't just declare winners. Oh, look, there's another political reference. Sorry.
It's been a hot week, guys.
Yes.
I guess another argument against it, though, would be because you know how in curling, some teams just get on a hot streak, right? And we've seen it in past Briers and Scotties where you have a team that comes out of nowhere that you never would have thought would be playing in the final, and they just got on a hot streak and won.
Yeah, I love seeing that.
Yeah, which is great. But then there's the critique of, oh, can this team then continue this performance on at the World? Like they don't have experience, they don't have this, blah, blah, blah. And we all know that if a team doesn't medal at the Worlds or the Olympics, like that's a big issue, right? We're kind of expected to.
Maybe, but that's where I want the narrative to change. I think it's much better for the sport when other countries win. I don't think Canada needs to win every year. Oh boy, is that controversial? I don't know. But
they do if you want to keep the funding.
I mean, I suppose, but really, it's for the survival of the sport. I think it's good to have other countries win. I have other concerns about curling in Canada, and it's not how well we're doing internationally.
To your point, if other teams are beating us on the world stage, it just means that we as a country got to up our game.
We've taught them well.
I mean, all of them essentially moved to Canada in the wintertime to compete here, right? Before going to the Worlds.
Exactly. Getting all upset about that, I think, would be very un-Canadian of us. So.
That's very true. another good point for Canada's selection process is, right now we have a representative from each province. So from Newfoundland to BC. And Canada is such a huge country that, like, teams from Nova Scotia aren't necessarily going to fly to BC for a regular competition, right? Like
No,
the maritime team, like East Coast is East Coast, West Coast is West Coast, Alberta, Saskatchewan, Manitoba, like they'll
it's
travel
also,
within
yeah,
them.
it's also really funny to be talking about this now because I think the only place you can curl in Canada right now is Atlantic Canada.
That's true. Well,
The
they
only
got them.
COVID or only places with COVID under control. So
I know that like there have been some tournaments in Alberta
it's
and
true, but
and
that
in
was,
the
I think,
prairies.
before it got much worse. Yeah.
But yeah, it's like it's so expensive and it's so far to travel within Canada that it's like one of those moments where we get to see people from across the country. Like we're really scanning the country here for a representative, and we're not just getting like a small niche of people.
Yeah, and it's interesting to think how, on the subject of that, how we have the province versus province model to declare our champions. That even though that format's been tweaked a little bit over the last few years, but it's essentially kept the same
Yeah, we had
method.
that little test run of the relegation with that
Oh
just
my
did
God!
not
Don't
work.
get me started.
It'll be 4 years where it's like team wildcard. And to be fair, there were a couple cases where the wildcard team made it to the final or to playoffs at least.
Yeah, like the wild card team will always be good. It's weird to explain to somebody when they're not curlers and you tell them, "Oh yeah, turn on TSN. It's the Brier, it's the national championship," and they turn it on. The province versus province. Hey, you're from Alberta, and then they turn it on like Team Canada versus Team Wild Card or North Ontario.
Ontario.
That's a province. So there's always weird things about it. But I think suffice it to say, we hated relegation, right? The idea of getting
Yeah.
rid of a province, it was,
And it's not fair for the other, because there's what, four teams that went into relegation. It's not fair for the other three teams because they have to plan that they'll be there for the week and a half.
right. We should actually say, like, this is when the Brier and Tournament of Hearts for many, many, I think, decades were full round robins with a team from every
Hmm.
province. And when Nunavut was brought in, that was one extra team, but they decided that all the territory should be split up into three teams rather than just one. And they felt like they had to overhaul the whole tournament format just to squeeze in that extra team.
Well, I mean, you couldn't do like already the 13 team round robin was a lot.
Yeah, it was 12. Yeah, it was
Or
12.
12? Okay,
Expand it would have been a little bit of an issue, but I mean, getting rid of provinces and just kicking them out was,
I don't mind the new format that they have now, to be honest, how they separate it into two groups and they do their
yeah,
own round robin, and then the top four of each move on to like the playoff round, I guess.
it's grown on me over the years. It's not that bad.
It's a good compromise.
Yeah,
For
it's better.
curling.
It's certainly better than kicking out teams.
Oh, for sure. For
Yeah,
sure. And then it also, with the whole relegation, it wouldn't benefit the smaller provinces or the territories, because like history has shown us that the territories aren't the top competitors in these competitions. So we would just never see them play, right? They would go to, Swift Current, Saskatchewan for 4 days and then head back north.
and this actually kind of leads into what I've noticed in curl or in the way Canada does things in the last 15, 20 years is that there's been a real shift towards these really elite teams getting eliter
Mm,
and going further and further away from the rest of the pack. And I just mean by that, when we think of, let's start with the Tournament of Hearts, you've got Rachel Homan, Jennifer Jones, Chelsea Carey every now and then. And there's some teams that knock on the door. Carrie Einerson is starting to do that. But after that, like, we are miles until we get to the next teams, aren't we? Unless I'm
yeah,
forgetting somebody. It's weird. I haven't curled. I know I'm forgetting people, but
no, but I totally agree with you because now, if you go back 10 years or so, all the top curlers, like they all had part-time jobs, right? They curled half the time and they had a part-time job with whether it was running a beer store or
we love you, Glenn.
or something like that. But within the past 10 years, there's definitely been a shift in those elite teams now taking the next step and becoming full-time professional curlers, essentially. And with that comes a lot more sponsorship and funding, et cetera, which allows them to, focus all their time on curling.
It's true. Yeah.
And that's a huge advantage.
Yeah. To illustrate that point, I actually did research for this episode. Look at me.
You came prepared.
Yeah, not really. Trivia time, Kelly. So name in the last 20 years a team that won the Brier that is not from, not Gushue and not from Alberta.
In the past 20 years?
Yeah.
Well,
see,
Howard.
but you have to think. Okay, but you had to think for a minute. Howard. Yeah. Okay, name another one.
Okay, after Howard, because Howard and Martin were like
Howard,
yeah. They are always battling it out. But after Howard, there was another winner, right?
So in the last 20 years, Alberta has won 11 Briers. I'm including Team Canada. Like if you're from, like if Cooey is Team Canada, I'm counting that as Alberta. But Alberta has 11 Briers. Newfoundland has 3, all Gushue. Howard has 2. And then North Ont, Quebec, Manitoba, BC, and Nova Scotia have 1.
Oh, well, Jacobs won.
Jacobs has that 1 Brier, yeah.
He only won
one, yeah. See, he's won the Olympic, so that's why we keep thinking like he's won more, but he actually has only won the Brier once.
Oh, I thought he won at least 2 or 3 times.
But it's interesting how, like we already know that it's been dominated by really 2 or 3 provinces, but what's interesting, I think, is that in the more recent, or if you look earlier in the time period I just mentioned, like early 2000, you have the Randy Ferbey dynasty, but you've got Greg McCauley out of BC. I
don't remember him.
I know, I don't either. I've just heard the name because he's a Brier winner, but if he walked down the street right now, I'm sorry to Greg McCauley, but I would not recognize him. But yeah, back then, it seemed like any province could win.
It's true.
And now, or just case in point, Quebec won a Brier, which I still have a hard time believing, and I'm sad to say I don't think will ever happen again.
Well, that's the thing. Alberta is such a powerhouse, and it's easier for teams there because one, they have a good competition, so they're playing against other good teams, and 2, it's a very curling is very present in that province, so it's easier to get sponsorship money and deals and stuff like that. Whereas Quebec, for instance, doesn't have that, right?
It's really, I'm sure people in Alberta love hearing 2 people from Quebec complain about things in curling from our perspective. I know we have it good, but of course, Alberta, Manitoba, they're always going to be powerhouses. But yeah, I think what we're getting to is that the ability to compete and to stay relevant in the competitive game. And that's why I'm going to make it.
If you want to do it from here in Quebec, you need a lot of money.
That's right. That's why I'm going to make a bold statement here and say that Jean-Michel Menard is, I think, in my opinion, one of the greatest curlers of all time, because he managed to keep up with the rest of these elite players for so many years, despite never traveling. Or, I mean, he traveled a little bit, but the amount of money he put into curling was a fraction. He's the Tampa Bay Rays of curling, to borrow a baseball metaphor.
But also, too, in his last Brier appearance, he even said it himself, the gap between the top players or the top teams and the not so top teams, the gap is just getting wider. And he's also I don't want to commit all that time. I don't want to dedicate my life to curling.
Yeah, and I think he had some.
Yeah, and he's I can't compete with these guys anymore.
I know. I think he had some quote. I'm going to misquote it, but it was something along the lines of, "I'm paying other teams to beat me," or it's just he's doing the math, and as good as he was, it wasn't sustainable. And to me, that's an issue that I would like fixed in Canada. Is that I have no problem with even as much as I don't like the whole wild card idea. I'm all right with that. Yeah, there should be 2 teams out of Alberta. You can win me over on that, but I'd like to see a way that we can support competitive, aspiring teams out of, say, New Brunswick. See more parity from province versus province. Especially if we're going to make the case that Nunavut should be included, as I think they should, we should actually do things to help them develop competitively and give them access to higher training, higher competition.
It's really hard. But it's a hard problem to solve.
I know. It's easy for me to say. It's easy for me to say, but yeah, what can you do? I don't know.
And you would think too with Ontario, because Ontario has quite a few like a high number of curlers, and like there's no national train, like a second national training center, like that would make sense to have one
Yeah,
there because it would cater to, mostly Ontario, but Quebec and the maritime teams. Because, for us to fly to like to Edmonton, that's a good $800-$900 ticket,
yeah. We can
you
go to
know?
Europe cheaper.
Absolutely. And it's probably be a
Right.
much funner trip.
Yeah, once we're allowed to go again.
Exactly. But also, like, at least here in Quebec, I mean, the curling culture just doesn't exist, right? It's like Hockeyville.
That's right. And ultimately, yeah, people are playing to win the province, but they're not really
Mhm.
playing to win Canada. They know it's not feasible.
Well,
At least
exactly.
right now.
The mentality when going into the provincials is yes to win and to get it's more like to get the experience of going to a Scotties or a Brier versus I want to be world champion. Which,
Hmm.
I mean, life goal, we all like, I'm sure they all have that, but realistically, it's more of a let's go enjoy our time. Let's try and make it to like the championship round of the round robin. Maybe place a playoff spot, but that's kind of like where
Yeah,
the expectation stops.
it's easy for me to sit here and complain. That's pretty much all I do.
Mhm,
But no, that's just it's my soapbox moment here of when I talk about these provinces that are really don't have any Brier aspirations. Is that what I'm more interested in than winning is the sport's long term survival.
mhm,
And I think if we could get a good team out of the Maritimes or a good team out of Quebec and get them access to training, and then maybe the sport would grow here. Maybe it would grow in Atlantic Canada. I think maybe
mhm.
it has because of Brad Gushu. He's the one exception to the Atlantic Canada rule. But
But even then, I think out of Newfoundland, like there's only 2 or 3 teams that enter the provincial
oh
playdowns.
yeah, like what's the point?
Well, yeah, because I
Yeah,
mean, are you gonna beat Brad Gushu, right?
no,
But yeah, I mean, I think we're coming to a point where Canada may need to revisit its national team selection process because we have seen it, we've mentioned this point over and over again how the gap is growing between the elite and the regular competitive people. And we've seen that effect too with like in these provincial playdowns. I mean, a few years ago, the men's provincial playdowns had what, like plenty of teams enter. Even the regional playdowns, like that was
that was
a
hard
feat. Even when we were in
when we were
juniors, the
juniors.
guys, it wasn't easy to get a regional spot.
I know, and the first year, I'll always remember this. The first year that we made junior provincials, we were celebrating. We thought that was the biggest deal ever, and it was. It was a big
It was a big
competitive thing to to nab a spot. And now it's just you sign up and go.
well, now they're trying to get people to sign
Now
up.
they need people to sign up. Like, hey, can you find 3 people and enter a team? And
And I mean, I don't want to date us too much, but those days where it was hard to get out of the regional, like to win a regional spot was what, 2008,
it's just
2009?
not that long ago. Yeah, we're
Mhm.
not that old.
Feels like it though.
I know.
But no, like exactly, the game has changed so much, and I think that's also part of the reason why, like, I personally haven't been so keen on getting back into competitive play. I'm just like, what's the like? I'm sacrificing so much for what? I love to play, but it comes with a sacrifice to be a competitive curler on like your own personal life or your work life. But if it's just to win a provincial and then go 3-10 at the Scotties, like, is it worth it?
That's a
And
very
I'm sure that's a question that a lot of people ask themselves.
it's a very good question. I wonder.
I'm sure some people would think, oh, doesn't matter, like just because the Scotties and the Brier, they just hold they're such a important part of curling in Canada. Like they hold such big weight. It's like the tournament of all the tournaments you want to win. It's that one, right?
Hmm.
So I
But
think
I would
just
argue a lot of people would give anything they have to just be in it
to
and
just
go
be in
three
it,
and
yeah.
ten.
Yeah, especially for us ladies. I mean, you get a lot of jewelry going there. So I would do it just for that, right?
At the Briar, I assume you'd get unlimited Tim Hortons as well.
Well, not that like I would really care because we
I
all
know.
know
I
my
brought that
stance
up to
on Tim
mess with you.
Hortons.
Yeah.
But yeah, and like people have said for many years now, like winning a Canadian national championship is harder than winning the worlds.
Yeah. And actually, I don't know if you want to get into the Olympics and the whole selection process for that, but one of the funny things is that it just reminds me of how hard it is. Um, when we went to the trials in Ottawa to watch it back 2-3 years ago, whenever it was, and we came back, I think I bought a little coffee mug and I was drinking from it at work the next day. It said Roar of the Rings on it, and somebody saw it and they're like, "Oh, what's that?" And I go, "Oh, it's I didn't even know I had it. It's the Olympic trials in curling. I was there this weekend in Ottawa." And
Was
the
it
guy,
the one in Ottawa or in
it was in
Kings?
Ottawa. Yeah.
Okay. This is when it was in Canada at the.
Yeah, yeah, where the Senators play.
They say it's in Ottawa, but like it's.
That's right. It's a good hour past Ottawa.
Yeah.
But anyways, so somebody looked at my coffee mug. "Oh, what's that?" And it's the Olympic trials. It's to see who goes to the Olympics for curling. And the guy said, "Oh, how'd you do? Were you close to going to the Olympics?" And like, I don't know if you've ever heard things like that. I'm like, I
Yes.
want to go like, yes, I was. In fact, I won, but work was getting in the way. I said, I'll give it to somebody else. But no, it's interesting that people don't realize how incredibly hard it is to make the Olympics in curling. And ironically, I think even though, I mean, we tell people, we've said it many times here, we are not very competitive, but we've been around. We know our stuff. We would have a better chance of making the Olympics if we quit curling and took up another sport, starting from zero.
Should you pick up bobsled?
Oh, that'd be interesting.
I just keep thinking of that Jamaican bobsled
Of course.
movie. It's a great movie. But yeah, to your point, the way Canada selects its Olympic team is different than how we select our national team for Worlds, right?
But it's a similar structure. It's you collect the best teams that have the best teams around for the last 4 years, and you throw them into the ultimate tournament of death.
But it's not. Yeah, I mean, in a sense, you have to win your way to the Olympic trials, but you're not constrained by your geographic location.
No.
That's like the huge difference, right? Because the teams going to the Olympic trials, so if you win either nationals in the past 2 years, Canada Cup winner also gets to go. I think the winner of the on the points, and then
something like that. Yeah, I never bother to follow the way that they break down the teams. I just all the good ones will make it
for sure. And then it's the pre-trials. So the Olympic trials is a little different because unlike for nationals and for Scotties and the Brier, where you have the top team from each province, for the trials you just have the top teams at the moment in Canada, regardless. So we could end up with a tournament with 5 teams from Alberta playing down for the Olympic spot.
Yeah, maybe we'll get to the Olympics next time because we're doing our international show next. But actually, because you remind me, when the trials is very similar to the format anyway of the Canada Cup, I think, because I don't know how you qualify. I assume it's something similar. Like if you're the defending champion of the Brier Tournament of Hearts, if you've won this, if you've won that, whatever. It's a grouping of the top money making teams in the country, and yes, maybe 3 of them are from Alberta, and 2 of them, they're all from like 4 provinces. And when you do the math, I mean, yeah, the competition there is theoretically better. But my question to you, I'm going to put you on the spot. Canada Cup or Brier / Tournament of Hearts?
Oh, Rob, I was going to throw the same question right back at you, actually. Yeah, I think I wouldn't be surprised if if we move to a similar Canada Cup selection or like Olympic trial selection for
every year.
For every year. For for selecting the team.
I know that was in the works for a while. I remember it was being discussed.
It's a hard one because logically, I think it would be the smartest move and I don't want to say best move, but I think it's the best way to guarantee you'll get like the top teams battling it out for the national title.
I suppose, but
however, on the other hand, like I said before, the Brier and the Scotties just play such an important part, and they're just such like a traditional event that every curler looks forward to. Like it holds so much weight that
don't mess with it.
If you remove the title of national championship from that, what's the point?
Yeah. I think one of the best things or examples is that, okay, I'm going to show how much of a curling nerd I am, but when I was looking through the list of the recent Brier and Tournament of Hearts winners, I had to look up a few of them, but most of them I can remember. I can remember the Randy Ferbey and Colleen Jones dynasty. I can remember Jennifer Jones winning all the time, but can you name like the Canada Cup winners? I mean, I can guess who
Mhm.
won, but I don't actively follow it. I don't
I don't think like what's gonna happen. I don't think that the winner of the Canada Cup is gonna be the winner, like the
the
representative.
representative. But
It's
that
still gonna be the winner of the Brier or the Scotties. However, the format's gonna change where they'll remove the provincial format and
right.
then
So but
use the
essentially
normal
making
Canada
it,
Cup.
yeah,
Yeah.
essentially making it the Canada Cup.
So
That
it would be
was
the death of the provincial playdowns and all that
That's
stuff.
right. And I know it was floated. It was discussed at one point a couple of years ago. And I think they brought in this whole wild card thing as a sort of compromise. And if that keeps it from going this route, then good as far as I'm concerned. Because my big thought with it was that the only thing that gets people into the audience at these curling events is not Angus McStone. It's not whatever lame ad campaign Curling Canada comes up with. It's the province versus province format. And I just say that because watch any of the Grand Slams. The Grand Slams have the best of the best, not just from Canada, but from all over the place. And there's not a lot of people there watching.
The viewership isn't the same. But I think I told you this before. I think with the slams, it's a lot of tournaments. They're all the same. You can't differentiate between them.
Oh
So
yeah,
it's just
the Humpty's Cup and the Pinty's whatever and the Swiffer. I don't know.
it doesn't have the same appeal as those. And I'm just gonna. This may be a bold statement, but I do think that if they get rid of the provincial playdowns and the provincial format in our national championships, it'll be the death of curling in a lot of provinces.
Yes, I agree with you. I think
Mm-hmm.
it's I hate the idea.
Should be a shame. Yeah.
Yeah, that's why I think I'm more interested in. Again, I don't know how to do it, but I think we came up with a pretty good idea. High performance training facility somewhere in Eastern Canada, somewhere in Northern Canada. Anything that helps spread the make or just somewhat more parity between provinces.
I'm sure there's a lot more people who are more like knowledgeable on how to do this, but
Yeah, but I think when they pitched the idea that of maybe declaring champions from the Canada Cup or restructuring everything to be like the Canada Cup and only take the best players, I think that I think that they were kind of out of touch, Curling Canada, out of touch with what curling fans actually want. And of course, I don't speak for
mhm,
all of them, but I think they were under the assumption that it's higher quality curling. People will love that.
mhm.
And I don't agree. I think people will prefer the Brier and Tournament of Hearts with the province versus province. Because the other thing I'm going to say is that don't tell me the quality is not high. I know that some of the provinces there are not going to figure too
Well,
prominently, but the quality is still high. There's still,
yeah, no, it's not. I mean, we're still getting good teams out of it, right?
yeah, it is working in my opinion.
Hmm. Yeah, a very controversial topic. Yeah, well, I guess one thing that they brought in, and you've participated in this too recently, is other tiers of competition. So there's the travelers,
Oh
right?
right, yeah, or the yeah, Travelers pulled their sponsorship, so it's the Egg Farmer. No wait, that's the Egg Farmers was the juniors. We got that in a actual mail today. We have viewers or listeners, whatever.
Actually, we were correct. We were
We were corrected.
corrected.
Right. It's I don't think they have a sponsor. I think it's just the Canadian curling or the Canadian club level championship or something.
Okay, well, I'm gonna keep calling it the
Yeah,
travelers for
me
now.
too. It's what I do.
So yeah, so this is for I guess kind of like what competitive curling was maybe 15 years ago, where you have a lot of people who love curling as like a hobby or they still want to have it as like a part-time thing and allows them to compete and travel around
Well done.
and to kind of get that competitive experience without, dedicating their full life to it.
Yeah, it's a great idea. Gives a national championship to people that are more at our level.
Mhm.
And the cool thing about it is that you're not allowed if you've been to the men's or women's provincials, or I think you're allowed like one player who's been, but you're
Okay.
not
Or it's like
allowed to be that elite.
Or like you couldn't have gone in the past like 5 years or something like that.
Something
Or
like
is it
that,
at
yeah.
all?
Like it's the eligibility rules are I don't even want to begin to
Mhm.
think about them. But the point is I've not done anything in a long time, so I know I'm able to. And when we
So
had it, yeah,
I guess it makes people think like not all is lost, like they can still compete and have a chance at a title. I mean, it's not
That's
Team
and what's
Canada
really
title, but it is something.
And what's really interesting is like I've played the provincials for it a couple of times, and the first few times we did it, it was a really throw together tournament. It was 12 teams, and it was like a Friday, Saturday, Sunday thing. They rushed you through the tournament quite quickly, and every year though the competition got better and better and better. And one
Mm.
year we were playing it, and it was up in Val d'Or, which was we drove about 12 hours
Favorite
just to
place.
play this tournament. Yeah. And no, sorry, it was in Rouyn-Noranda, even further. And we went all the way there. We did well. And the thing that's interesting is they had 12 men's teams, 12 women's teams, which 12 women's teams in Quebec, like we didn't have 12 teams try to get to the Tournament of Hearts. And
I
it's
was trying
just,
to think. Yeah, it's like if you get 5, congratulations.
yeah, like five is a lot. And they
Mhm.
had 12 women's teams fighting to go to this thing.
And we had a couple. We had a women's team at our curling club, I think, who participated. No.
Yeah, and they got very close. It was
Yeah,
our club was
and
well represented.
you know what? I'm sure a lot of women's teams there, like they would have gone to the provincials, but they're just like, there's no way we're gonna win, and even if we do win, there's no way we're gonna do well.
Yeah, and so actually that
Scotties,
leads me
so
to what my point is that hey, Curling Canada, find a sponsor for this tournament because it's worth having. There's a lot of people that still want to play, and
mhm.
that are and it just that's the best evidence I can give. The fact that Quebec had 12 women's teams sign up for this, and even more because some failed to qualify. So
Yeah,
it
it's very
shows the
telling.
demand is there, and unfortunately, the whole format of like three because it's 3 days. It's
It's
not much of a provincial.
but it's expensive, right? So also to like these teams now, they only have to cover costs for 3 days, whereas the provincials is what, 5 days
I suppose. I
or
think
so.
they'd be longer if they had 12 teams in the provincials because they're
True.
just
So
5 game round robins. They're pretty short. But it's just because it's a really clunky format. If you lose
mhm.
one game, you're basically done.
Yeah, but that here's the thing. So you're taking a week off work, you're spending all this money to drive to God knows where in the province,
Oh,
and a
I
whole
know.
lot of
Yeah,
nothing.
I'm not asking for a week off work. I'm just thinking
No,
one extra day would have
but
been.
this is why some teams aren't going or like aren't signing up for the provincials anymore. It's you're taking it like it does involve a lot of sacrifice for like
Oh yeah, like
the
I can't
reward
take a week
isn't
off
worth
work.
it.
I
Yeah.
can't.
A week off work, you got to get there, room and board. It's not cheap.
Yeah, so this I think is much more attainable. And we were talking to
Mhm.
the team that beat us and went on to win the championship, and they were saying that they've played this for years, and every year it gets better and better and better. This is worthy of investment. This is where the curlers in Canada are. The the bulk of us anyway. Most of us are not TV worthy.
How about I'm throwing this out there. Let me know what you think about it.
Okay.
What if so you're saying the Travelers is gaining more and more like momentum and popularity. What if the provincial playdown format moves to the Travelers or like the Travelers adopt this format or like absorb this tournament and Canada's national team selection moves to a more Canada Cup type of tournament?
I still don't like it.
So you're replacing the type. So you're still getting. We're still keeping our beautiful Briar and Scotties like provincial playdown thing, but it's just not as prestigious, I guess.
No, I
Um,
still I wouldn't
no.
touch the Briar. I mean, you can tweak the Tournament of Hearts and Briar to me, but I would not. Just because it's not just those that we have national champions for. We have it for juniors, seniors, mixed. There's
Hmm.
province versus province for all kinds of levels, but nobody really goes to those. It's all the Tournament of Hearts and Briar, more so the Briar that draws people in.
Hmm.
And so I
But
would
that's
not.
um, but that's the same for every sport, right? Like junior competition never gets the
Yeah, I
same.
suppose not.
Same with seniors. Like no one watches those,
Yeah, we're
regardless
alienating more and more people.
but like no, but regardless of the sport, it's always like the adult competition. Luckily for curling, we have a athletes have a long lifespan
Hmm.
of competing. You can compete until you're 50 or 60.
You know, I was thinking this year when this team that won Quebec to go to the Brier was they're very young. They're just out of
Oh, they're
juniors.
straight out of
Yeah,
juniors.
the Alec Bedard, And
Mhm.
the funny thing is, like, we were talking, I think, before about how we feel kind of old. We were juniors, and then we knew all the people that were behind us, and now we don't know anyone. And
Mhm.
I remember, like, Alec Beder being extremely young, and just when he won, I was like, so when do I turn senior? When can I start going for senior nationals? Still a ways
Seriously.
away, unfortunately, but that was my thought.
Yeah, well, I'm sad to say, Rob, I think it's just gonna get worse from here unless you start attending more, like, provincial competitions and
No,
stuff and get back into the
no.
know.
We did try that one time with mixed doubles, but that's a whole different story. We have to keep plugging that because it's a good story for another podcast, but
It'll just be the story we keep mentioning but never fully
we never
tell.
fully explain.
You
Yes,
have to listen to every episode we make because it's the only way you're gonna get the full
that's right.
story.
Maybe at the end we'll do a big reveal of what happened.
That's true. So I guess we haven't come into any consensus here, really, as to where Canada's going in their national
No,
selection process.
it's just a typical podcast for us. We're in disagreement, and we're bringing up Randy Ferbey again. He always somehow comes up every week. We mention Randy
We
Ferbey.
have to shoehorn him in
Yeah,
every episode. But you know what? I'm just like my parting thoughts here is I definitely love the way that we have it set up right now. Like it's the Brier and the Scotties are definitely my favorite tournaments
me
after
too.
the Continental Cup.
Wait,
But you know
Continental
what?
Cup? You're a fan of the Continental Cup?
Well, not recently, but like before I was a big fan. It was so
Okay.
much fun. This is a
Sorry to
discussion
interrupt your
for
closing thought. Yes,
another episode. But
I'm
I
not a
wouldn't
fan,
be.
but go ahead.
What? You're not a fan?
Well, I am. It's just I'm indifferent. Let's say that.
It's you know what? If you want to make curling more entertaining and whatnot, like Continental Cup is something like does the job.
Maybe.
Okay, so to recap, yes, I am definitely a fan of our current like selection process. However, I wouldn't be surprised if it changes within the next like Olympic cycle or two. Maybe. Yeah. Maybe not the next one, but the one after.
My thought,
Mhm.
and yeah, my closing thought is I wouldn't panic if I'm curling Canada over the level of, or maybe we should panic, but to me, it's not over how well Canada's doing. It's over the fact that there's a lot of clubs closing and that there's not a lot of
Mhm.
people. And of course, that'll be even more so the case probably after, because of the pandemic. But I'm much more interested in the sport's survival in different areas than how well Canada does.
Mhm. That's why I think it's definitely like twofold. It's finding a way that ensures that we're picking the best team or the best team wins for that year without killing the sport in other parts of the country.
Yeah.
So yeah, I guess that's where we're at. So stick
Yeah.
around for next week where we get to talk about more stuff we're not super knowledgeable about, but is the selection process um, in other countries or how the rest of the world picks their team because they don't all subscribe to Canada's way for various reasons.
Even though they should. No, I'm just kidding.
Well, some of them, like to be fair, some of them can't,
Some of the,
right?
oh, I know. Yeah, that was a.
Yeah. But anyway, stay tuned for more.
Yeah, this isn't over. We'll fight again.
Until next week. Bye.
Bye bye.